your hosts, Marcus Katkin and Matt Dougal.
Blindside Fantasy Football Podcast. Marcus Katkin back with Matt Dougal. Matt, I got no funny stories to open tonight. Nothing.
That's all right, then. Let's just get to it.
Nothing good. But make sure you guys follow us on Twitter, at Marcus Katkin, at Matt Dougal. You guys liking the podcast, make sure to leave us a review on iTunes. Matt, I will start us off with the 3 things I learned in week 6.
I get it. All right.
Math, not my strong suit, number 1.
We could shorten it right up and have like a normal week, 3 of 6. Next week's 3 of 7.
Yeah, sure.
That's what you meant. Putting a tagline on it.
So, Gary Barnidge is God, and he's matchup proof.
Yep.
Done.
Okay.
He's getting there.
These are things we always learn.
E.J. Manuel is should be the Bills starting quarterback all the time.
Yeah, I mean, he was top 10 anytime he plays this year.
Yeah. And finally, I still can't believe this one. The Broncos defense has outscored Peyton Manning each of the last 3 weeks. Ouch.
Yeah.
Peyton. Ouch.
That's something we really did learn.
That is, yeah. It's kind of like, remember the old ABC thing or whatever, the more you know, when it had like the little shooting star?
Yeah.
It's the more you know. It's like,
I just thought of something. Next time we can just kind of open with this instead of that stupid minute we started with.
Yeah, probably. Retake, let's start over. All right, let's get into, first, let's go over the games here coming up. Thursday night, Seahawks at 49ers. Marshawn Lynch came back last week, seemed to make it through fairly healthy. Goes up against the 49ers defense that's 8th worst against the running backs. They've really tightened up lately, though. Just 40 carries, 145 yards, no rushing touchdowns the last 2 weeks. Just 3.6 yards per carry. Obviously, I mean, season long, we talk about this a lot. Season-long league, you got him, you're starting him. Daily, I'm not touching him.
No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, but
I feel like that's the analysis for a lot of people we go over lately.
Yeah, well, I mean
it's just how
I feel like he ran good. He looked good. He looked physical. He looked like Marshawn. And all the talk about Thomas Rawls, I mean, everybody was an idiot. Like he's going to cut into Marshawn Lynch's workload. I never bought into that, and it was pretty obvious this week. What did Rawls get?
No.
3 carries, I think.
I don't know. But you're right. Yeah, Marshawn Lynch, when he's back, you're playing him, except in daily where I'm kind of staying away because the price tag scares me a little bit. Jimmy Graham came back this week, 8 for 140 last week. Is he back?
12 targets, too.
Yeah. Are they finally figuring it out that, hey, we have this guy, we can throw to him?
Yeah, Russell talked about it actually in a press conference, too. Just, as it goes along, they're going to become more and more familiar with each other. And it makes sense.
He should have got familiar with him a long time ago, though. That I feel like that's chemistry that should have been worked on a long time ago, and it should have developed by
he should be number 1 option in every pass situation for that offense. There's no one out there that's talented. Talented they all are, but I'm talking like
more talented us at football.
But there's nobody that's like supremely
speaking.
talented.
Yeah,
other than him on that pass catching situation on that team.
San Francisco has allowed a touchdown to a tight end in 3 games this season, but they haven't allowed many yards. So not the best matchup. You're obviously hoping for the touchdown, I think, as you are with many tight ends. Maybe Jimmy Graham a little bit more so with the yards. But I'm not only am I not touching any San Francisco player in this game, Matt, I actually think the Seattle defense is going to be a sneaky play on a short week.
Yeah, Kaepernick's been slowing down on the turnovers, so you figure there's a few coming.
Yeah, it's just a bad offense.
Yeah, Hyde's banged up too. I mean, they get the big playability every once in a while, a little schoolyard football with Kaepernick, but not a ton of talent on that side of the field.
No. We got a 9:30 game over in London again this week.
Can't wait.
Internet only. I don't like the internet only thing. That bothers me. I don't know. I want
internet only.
Yes.
I didn't know.
Oh yeah.
You sure?
Internet only.
I got Sunday ticket.
Internet only.
Wow.
That's the whole thing for this game. Not a fan of that. I don't like that. I don't want to be sitting there with the computer open to watch this game.
Oh, come on.
I mean, Chromecast it to your TV maybe or something like that.
What are you, stuck in the 90s?
Yeah, I know. You know what I'm saying though. It's just a little those extra steps. I don't want to be doing those extra
let me
steps
just
at
turn it
9:30 in the
on.
morning. I just want to turn it on and watch some
Let me
football.
get up and say Xbox on.
Yeah,
And then just get it started.
Exactly. But we got the Bills at the Jaguars. Well, at the Jaguars here in London. You know what I'm saying.
Yep.
Blake Bortles and Allen Robinson, both top 5 in their respective positions.
Crazy.
That's nuts.
Allen Robinson has been, other than week 1, he's been solid this year.
Crazy.
And Blake Bortles is looking good.
Blake Bortles, multiple touchdowns or 298 passing yards, essentially 300 yards, in 5 straight games. If I'm playing any games involving this 9:30 game, he's going to be in my cash games. I feel like he has to be. His price is so cheap, and he's been producing week after week.
I hear you. Yeah, I mean, the consistency's been there now. I think it's, 3 or 4 games in a row. Just continuing to put up.
Well, I just said
You know,
5 games in a row of basically
5, yeah.
300 yards or multiple touchdowns. It's happening.
They're playing from behind in a lot of situations and throwing the ball around.
And then the Bills, I mean, they're going to be, according to Vegas projections, they're going to be playing from behind in this game. But if you take out the game where the Bills play the Titans, the Bills this season have allowed 13 passing touchdowns in just 5 games.
Yeah, this defense doesn't really scare me like I thought it would.
Tyrod Taylor banged up. Carlos Williams still dealing with issues. Percy Harvin on the mend. Sammy Watkins getting hurt again. Are there any Bills players left to talk about?
Oh, LaShawn McCoy.
I mean, sure. I think McCoy and Charles Clay are going to have good games because volume's going to be there because somebody has to do something.
I like Clay quite a bit because, like you said, there's a lot of injuries going, and he's a guy who is coming off, I think, 10 targets last week, maybe even 12 targets last week. So, you know, a guy who was one of the only ones healthy running around on that field down. It's going to be
13 targets last week.
There we go. I was off on all of them, but the point was a lot of targets. It's, you know, he's the only guy I think that's confident and actually healthy. So yeah, I like him actually quite a bit in a lot of GPPs. I think even cash games, he's got a pretty high floor. I think
I got a better cash game tight end.
But
we'll talk about later.
LaShawn's got a cake matchup here. The Jaguars letting up, you know, over 20 points a game, 21 points a game to running backs this season. So
do you trust LaShawn though?
Yeah, he looked all right last week. We know he's playing banged up though. He's even said it kind of came back early. And Carlos Williams, man, I hope this is a long absence from a concussion. I hope he's doing all right. It's crazy.
Yeah. Switching over to the 1 o'clock games here, Buccaneers at Redskins. Sounding like no Deshaun Jackson again this week, but we may see Jordan Reed back. Not a sure thing, but he was back at practice today. I didn't see if it was limited or not. I would assume it probably was. It's not like you're going to be a full practice right out the go when you get back in there, but no Deshaun Jackson, maybe some Jordan Reed.
No, Reed's playing.
Yeah?
Yeah. He's quoted on saying he's good. He's 100%.
Also,
yeah,
it's gospel.
He's playing.
Matt Jones missed last week. Assuming he plays this week, do you believe he gets the lion's share of the carries? I mean, Alfred Morris looked horrendous last week.
Yeah. Tough matchup for him, but I think they're probably going to go back to it. I think they're going to go back to Jones. I think he's a guy that's really nice trade right now, trade option, considering, you know, inactive last week. Maybe the guy doesn't follow too much of what was going on there. Maybe thought he just didn't play. It's, you know, obviously everybody's got those kind of guys in their leagues. You know what I'm talking about. So I think he's a guy to try to go get before it happens this weekend. I still like the talent that I saw, but it's just tough when you're a running back, especially of his stature. You know, he's one of those guys kind of, I think, will get better as the game goes along. He's a little bit of a bruiser, you know, of course. So if he can kind of take the job, Alfred Morris is just...
Alfred Morris, 2.8 yards per carry over the last 4 games.
Yeah. I think...
and it's only 2.8 because they rounded it up from like the 2.7 and some change.
And just not breaking tackles. You know, you get a hand on him, he's going down. Just not looking good.
Matt, only 4 times this season has a Tampa Bay wide receiver had at least 55 receiving yards in a game. 55.
Yeah.
Want to hear it get even worse?
It's been a different guy every time.
Two of those 4 have been Lewis Murphy.
Yeah. Yep.
That's bad.
Yeah,
really bad.
Winston.
I put that out there on Twitter today, that little snippet, and had a lot of Tampa Bay fans blow me up. well, I've only played in 5 games, so having 4 is not bad. And I'm like, no. I'm not saying 4 different games. I'm saying 4 games. Like, it's not hard for 2 or maybe even 3 wide receivers
to have 55
yards in a game.
Yeah. For
most teams, not Tampa Bay, though. I mean, I really don't have a lot to talk about in this game. Really not that fantasy relevant for me, I guess.
I hear you.
Doug Martin's looking better, but I still,
Yeah, Safari and Jenkins might come back. We'll see. But, I mean, anything in that passing game is scary. Yeah. Vincent Jackson is going to be hit or miss. So is Mike Evans.
They're going to be very hit or miss. I mean,
a lot miss quite a bit.
It'd
be good baseball, guys at the plate probably batting about 300, but it's not good for fantasy football.
Falcons at Titans, Devonta Freeman.
What can you say?
I was just going to say, is there anything left to say about him at this point?
No,
the price keeps rising in DFS. Do you keep paying up for him? Is he still? I think last week he was like a top 5 priced running back.
Yeah, the problem is everybody's paying up for him, though. His ownership percentages were pretty high last weekend.
But at what point do you get off of him? I mean, I read a stat today that was like, this is the first time since LaDainian Tomlinson back in 2006 that a running back has scored at least 30 PPR points in like 4 straight games.
Yeah, did you know in 2006 in standard league scoring, LaDainian Tomlinson had 8 games of 25 or more in a row?
I was going to say when he did the 4 straight games, it was 4 straight games of 40 for LaDainian in PPR.
Insane.
It's shout
out.
Going back to 2006 here. No, but seriously, I mean, do you keep just paying up for him?
Well, you got to go back to that 06 to kind of get somebody to talk about like this guy's been insane. Yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, you can't just fade him if you're nuts if you do all around. I'm going to have lineups without him, of course, but
I mean the matchup does get a little bit tougher. The Titans have been
last week was supposed to be kind of a tough matchup too.
Yeah, no, I mean I hear it. The Redskins
13 for 100.
The Redskins are supposed to be a tough matchup. I mean it.
Yeah,
he's been blowing everybody up. Which Julio shows up in this game? The first 3 game Julio or the last 3 game Julio?
Probably the last 3 game Julio.
I think so too. I think that injury
he needs to kind of take a break. He just doesn't look the same.
I think that injury is nagging him more than he's letting on.
Yep.
It reminds me a lot of like what was it, Roddy White last year when he had that injury and kind of just.
Well, we thought it was an injury. I think it was just he was old.
I think
before we knew it.
Right, but you know what I mean. Just one of those cases where they're trying to play through it and it's actually hurting them more than it's helping.
How about a better, more recent scenario? How about LaShawn McCoy to start the season?
Yes.
That's how he looks when he's running too. Like McCoy never looked like he was stretching out. You know what I mean? Like and that's Julio just doesn't look like he's fully extending. Obviously, he's worried about it. It looks to me.
Marcus Mariota suffered a sprained MCL, looking very unlikely. They haven't ruled him out yet, but I mean it's gonna happen.
Mariota says pretty good chance he's gonna play, but hey. What's crazy is he played through this.
So just like Jordan Reed, he's going to play then, right?
He played through this, and isn't that what Ben has been out for? Ben Roethlisberger?
No, not sprained MCL, is it?
I don't know.
Tyrod Taylor has a sprained MCL too, and Tyrod Taylor almost played without missing any games.
Yeah.
So
Mariota, kid's an animal.
So we're going to probably see
rough game though, that's for sure.
We're going to see Mettenberger probably in this one. Does this have any impact for you on any of the Titans players?
No, I mean I think Mettenberg's just fine.
I think
he was a pretty decent looking young quarterback last year who's a year further now. I think it's not going to hurt him at all. One guy I want to like in this situation, in this team moving forward, we've talked about plenty of times. Green Beckham had the most snaps he's had this week. This past week he had 6 targets. And
did he go up from 6 to 12?
No, I think he had 26 snaps this week. Plus, Harry Douglas is banged up and looks like he could possibly be having to sit out this week. So, Harry Douglas, that's another guy whose stats we should just bring up from week to week because it's incredible the amount of targets he's had compared to the yards he's got from scrimmage. It's insane how bad he's been and why they have just continued to hang on to this 32-year-old. I get they brought him in free agency, but it's like just let the kid go, Green Beckham. It's coming. I think he's still a really nice stash for late season.
Yeah, 42% last week, still not getting.
But that's way up from what he was.
Yeah, 17, 26.
Yeah.
I mean, way up from 2 snaps is 5. I mean, it's all relative.
All I'm saying,
I hear what you're saying. He has.
You
the
can't tell me
potential.
he's not a guy that you would. If he was on our waiver wire in our home league, would you have him on your roster, on your bench? You wouldn't.
No.
All right. I think he's a guy that can have a really nice run for people late in the season.
But he's also burning a roster spot for you, and I mean, I don't know. It's not like this week he's all of a sudden going to be 80% snaps and 10 targets or something great. You know what I mean?
Could be if Harry Douglas is out and then he never loses the position again. So please listen to me and not Marcus. Martavis Bryant was one of my guys.
Getting back
Travis Benjamin was one of my guys.
Getting back to Mettenberger and all this, he has no impact for me on any of the Titans players because I don't want any of them. It's that simple for me.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he does have some impact in real football for fantasy-wise. Nothing.
No, they're all graded the same, which isn't very good.
Yeah. Saints at Colts. Andrew Luck returned from injury last week, went over 300 yards and had 3 touchdowns against the Patriots. This week he gets the Saints that are allowing the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks. So the question is, if Andrew Luck obviously has a nice game, which one of his receivers are you gambling on?
T.Y.
Yeah, still?
Yeah. Although the thing that scares me about T.Y. is the biggest playability. I mean, his situation was big play in that's what kind of sets him apart. So Luck still doesn't look like he's back completely. You could kind of see it. Almost altered his throwing angle and everything last week to be able to get it done, and he was fine, but the regular zip wasn't there for me. And I'm not the only one that thought that. That's what everybody down there at the game was actually talking about prior to it. Just didn't look the same.
On the season, Dante Moncrief actually has more fantasy points than him. And last week, out-targeted T.Y.
Yeah.
And
I guess if I had to bet on it, I'll go Moncrief.
And T.Y. Hilton.
But I'm a tournament guy in DFS, so I'm going Hilton.
T.Y. Hilton, no 100-yard game yet this season.
Right.
It's interesting.
Yep.
I mean, there's definitely been quarterback issues there, but still not what you expect from your quote-unquote number one receiver.
Yeah, man.
I mean,
fine,
to our point about the Tampa Bay guys, both Tampa Bay guys have had 100-yard games.
Yep.
Like, ugh. Saints' run defense isn't much better. They've allowed the 6th most fantasy points to opposing running backs and have allowed at least 100 rushing yards in 5 out of 6 games this season to running backs. They allowed 433 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns the last 3 weeks. Frank Gore?
Yeah.
I know that was a lot of numbers I just threw at you. You're looking at me all
No.
over.
No, I mean, that's I was going to say, I like Gore this week. I like him quite a bit, and I just wanted to make sure we brought up that Robinson didn't get a touch this week. Instantly, they went to Bradshaw as the backup.
I told you it's going to be. It's give it a couple
no.
weeks.
You didn't tell me. You said you thought that he's going to worry and take snaps and all I'm saying is make sure he's your handcuff.
He's going to take work away from Gore. Absolutely, he's going to work his way back in. Last week it was a little bit. This week it's going to be a little more. 3 weeks from now it's going to be 60-40.
Okay, I don't think so.
It's going to get back there again.
At most 70-30.
Yeah, it's coming. Let's put it this way: fantasy point wise, it'll be closer. It'll be 60-40.
Fantasy point wise,
maybe not snaps and all that stuff, but fantasy point wise, Bradshaw's going to be in there around the red zone. In the red zone, he's going to be getting those little dump off passes like he was last year.
Yeah, quite possible.
That's what I see happening. Breeze has topped 300 yards in all but one game this season, but he's only had more than 1 touchdown in 2 games this season. Despite the implied point total of 24 by Vegas, I'm not really liking any of the Saints players here, except for maybe Willie Snead because he's cheap in DFS.
I don't know. I mean, DFS we're talking?
Well, just both. I mean, both.
I think Luck will be fine. I mean, sorry. I think Breeze will be fine. He seems to be back, and
the yards are there. The touchdowns aren't.
Right, and that's going to be. I think it's going to be a tough situation for the Saints defense. So he's going to have to score some points. So yeah, like you said, the yards have been there. The touchdowns haven't. I think he probably gets a couple of them this week.
I don't know. You're not playing him in tournaments, and I'm not paying up for him for cash.
And Ben Watson, flash in the pan, right?
Yeah, I saw a stat today that going into last week, he had 10% of the team's targets Last week he had 30% in their game. So that's obviously why you see the big spike. It's game flow. It's a little bit of who's open. Okay, Ben Watson is again. They're just not covering him. Go to him. That type of thing. So I'm not buying into that too much. Mark Ingram, I just wanted to point this out. I've been a big Mark Ingram guy and didn't notice this until actually today when I was writing this up, but has only gone over 60 rushing yards once this season. I had liked Ingram a lot because he was getting a lot of receiving out of the backfield. At one point was leading all running backs in receiving yards and everything. But just 5 catches for 27 yards since Spiller's returned. So he's losing the receiving role to Spiller, which he should be. And like I said, hasn't only topped 60 rushing yards once.
Yeah, but he's also going to be the guy in the goal line.
He is getting
every time.
He is getting a lot of red zone touches.
Yeah. So what are you thinking? Sell high? I wouldn't mind it. Depending on how high,
I think if you have someone
you're getting, but
I think if you can have someone that can buy into, I think right now he's like the number 12 fantasy running back. If you can have someone that buys into him as a RB1, you're absolutely selling.
What if somebody offered you Eddie Lacy for Mark Ingram right now?
Ooh.
What would you do?
I'd still stick with Lacy.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
I just, there's more potential. And at what point do you turn from potential to actual production?
Yeah.
I mean, at what point do you make that switch and go, all right, potential's great, but if you're Darren McFadden, that didn't really work out for you.
Right, yeah. I hear you, but it's not even potential with Eddie Lacy. We've seen it, and like we were talking about it today. We weren't arguing.
With Darren McFadden.
Kind of, yeah.
Way
but not in
when.
this situation. No, it was Oakland, different world.
I'm buying Ingram as a 15, 20-ish running back.
Yeah, so if you can, I see what you're saying. So yeah,
RB1.
Sell high if somebody believes RB1.
Because like you said, the red zone work is going to be there, the touchdowns are going to be there.
What about if somebody offers you Antonio Brown?
For Ingram?
Yeah, all over it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, not even thinking. Vikings at Lions. Adrian Peterson absolutely destroyed my cash game lineup last week. Just destroyed it. This week he gets the Lions, who have allowed the 7th most fantasy points to running backs, including 280 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks.
And 134 against Peterson in week 2.
Yeah. I mean, I'm putting Peterson back in my cash lineup. I don't think he gets shut down 2 weeks ago.
It doesn't happen often that he's going to get 26. If you tell me he's going to get 26 carries,
I saw somewhere
give it to me.
That said when he gets 25 or more, there's only been one other time in his career that he hasn't hit 100 rushing yards.
Yeah, so
the work is there for him.
They bottled him up. Like you said, he's bouncing back, no problem.
Matt, Stephon Diggs, is he the receiver we want to own in Minnesota, or is he just the flavor of the month?
Oh, clearly the receiver you want to own in Minnesota, but the caveat there is Minnesota. All right, he's a guy that I've talked about on the podcast. The first preseason game I saw him play, I didn't know anything about him, I'll admit it. And I called my dad, who's also a big Vikings fan, just to say, wow, we have this kid, Stephon Diggs, when you watch the game, just keep an eye on him. The route running is unreal. I saw it right away.
The words he used was, what, Cordero Patterson reincarnate?
Yeah, no, clearly not. Yeah, Patterson, most raw running wide receiver in the NFL, in the history of the NFL.
He's still pretty raw.
Diggs, the talent's there. There's some interesting quotes coming out of camp, too, from players. Mike Wallace talking about, hey, I was there when Antonio Brown started. It reminds me of him, the way he works, the way he runs. Captain Munnerlyn said something about the way his work ethic, his attitude to the game, his skills. We're talking about a future Hall of Famer. I mean, it's ridiculous, but these are veterans. Yeah, these are veterans that are looking at a young guy that really liking him. So when you have nobody that's really taken over the situation, I'll recall my Travis Benjamin talk. Somebody's got to, so I like him. And the talent's there because I don't think Charles Johnson, I don't think he's going to get that role back. They asked Zimmer, and he was non-committal. Pretty much, I think it's gone, Johnson.
No, I think it's pretty clear. Charles Johnson was doing nothing with it to start this year, so I mean, I think it's pretty clear right now.
2 games in his career now, and he's it seems like Teddy and him have a nice connection.
So did Jarius Wright last year with him.
Yeah,
that was a thing for 2-3 weeks last year,
but not like this. It's different.
I think it was pretty much very similar to this. After a great week last week, I don't think Matthew Stafford makes it 2 in a row against this tough Vikings secondary.
I agree. But you saw him give Charles Johnson a few chances last week, and Ebron may be coming back this week. Who's
Calvin Johnson? You said Charles Johnson again.
Sorry, yeah, wow, that's a terrible confusion.
Not the same guy.
No, not just quite slightly different. Ebron may be back this week, so that's kind of a sneaky play, I think, if he is healthy. The Vikings do struggle against the tight end. That's a spot that you can attack them. So, that's a nice weapon to get back to. Remember, he started pretty hot, and this kid was drafted in the top 15 picks for a reason. So they need to figure out their running back situation. The offensive line is horrendous. If they can continue to just kind of throw the ball up to Charles Johnson, that's a good idea. Keep doing it. But tough defense.
Matthew Stafford has a hard time figuring that out sometimes.
Yeah.
Which Lions running back has had a more disappointing season, Joik Bell or Amir Abdullah?
Abdullah, no doubt. Joik Bell, it was quiet on the Joik Bell front. You weren't really expecting a lot from him coming back from that injury.
They were drafted very close to each other in drafts.
Yeah, I guess not in my draft boards.
Right, not in mine, not in yours, but in drafts in general.
Abdul has been this is a guy who I talk about my Calvin Benjamin and my Latavius Murray, and I should also mention the guys like Abdullah, who I just loved this preseason. I was wrong.
There was a lot of people who liked Abdullah this season. I wasn't one of them. I actually was more on Joik Bell, but obviously both of them have been disasters. I'm with you. I think Abdullah is more disappointing just because Joik Bell has missed games and he's had opportunity and hasn't seized it. You know what I mean?
You mean what? Oh, okay, yeah. Joik Bell has missed games, and Abdullah
hasn't had a chance to kind of seize the fact that
right.
Joik Bell's out.
Clearly, it's an easy answer to the question. You're right. Joik Bell's out. I'll keep him on my bench or drop him, but Abdullah's been there, and you're like, I should play him this week in my flex or my RB2, so he's been killing you.
Yeah. Steelers at Chiefs.
What do you think? Does Bell have a chance to come back from the dead? As bad as no one's taken the job, what if he's a little better now?
I think it's more Theo Riddick. I really like Theo Riddick.
I don't know if they trust him to run the football, though. Bell's an interesting pickup for me this weekend.
I think
before Sunday happens.
I think when you're as bad as the Lions are, you're going to throw the ball a lot.
Yeah.
It's not going to really matter.
Bell was good out of the backfield at one point. Remember that?
Yeah. Steelers at Chiefs. I thought this was interesting. Still no Vegas line on this game yet, which must make me feel like Vegas thinks that Roethlisberger may still have a chance to play.
Clearly. I
mean, otherwise they would have set the line a long time ago. Unless you can't tell me that they haven't set the line because they don't know if Vic's.
Of course not.
You know what I mean? Like it's not that. If Roethlisberger is back, I am back on Antonio Gates and cash games. Not looking back.
Antonio Brown, sorry.
Matt, your boy Martavis Bryant, 6 for 137, 2 touchdowns, and man, you can smoke these Kansas City DBs. He should feast again. Unless Vic's playing. If Vic's playing.
Pun intended?
No pun intended.
I didn't
even think of that, but oof,
jeez,
smooth, huh? Slip that right in there.
You didn't even mean to, and I thought when you said it, I'm like, oh, good, Marcus, but you had no smirk on your face. You just kept going. I'm like, wow, he doesn't even know what he just did.
Professional over here.
Yeah.
No, I think he could have another nice game this week as long as Vic is not the quarterback. I think if Vic's the quarterback, I'm worried about Bryant.
I guess, yeah.
Vic doesn't.
Bryant, I mean, let's face it, he had a huge play that really made a lot of his day.
Sure.
But still, relatively good day regardless. This guy is just big play all over the place. Only, Randy Moss only had one more point than him in his first, 12 games of his career.
Really?
Yeah. Randy Moss was a pretty impressive rookie, if you remember.
Yeah.
This guy's he's a big play guy for sure. When Roethlisberger comes back, and it could be as early as this weekend, he says today that he's relatively pain-free. He was limited in practice today. To have those two guys to throw to with Bell in the back, I mean, that's an offense that just scares the shit out of you if you're game planning for it. And I don't think that Bryant, even if he continues to play really well, he's never going to hurt Brown because he's such a big play guy that really Brown excels underneath. And if you're a safety, you got to step back one more step now when Martavis is out there, So he's not going to. You don't have to worry about Martavis eating into Antonio Brown. If you're trying to trade for Brown, that's something to kind of put in his ear. Watch out, Brian. This guy looks good, Yeah,
I mean, I think Roethlisberger's going to throw the ball up quite a bit. Might actually not make for a bad. Well, if Roethlisberger's playing, that could be an interesting stack right off the bat. People are gonna be worried a little bit about the injury and stuff like that.
What, Roethlisberger, Bryant?
Well, just Roethlisberger and Bryant. Maybe all three.
Yeah.
Just might be interesting. Anyway, believe it or not, I'm down on Le'Veon Bell this week. Kansas City has only allowed a rushing touchdown to a running back in one game this season. And they've also held opposing running backs to under 100 yards in all but one game. I don't know. Especially if Vic's back there again, I hate that offense with Vic.
Yeah, I agree. But if it's not Vic and it's Ben, I don't really care who the matchup is. Bell's that good. Yeah. I guess he'll stay away from him in situations, but clearly year round, you're never benching him no matter who the hell you're playing or who the quarterback is. So,
no Jamal Charles. Jeremy Maclin's still dealing with a concussion. So obviously this offense is going to run through Niall Davis and Charkandrick West and Travis Kelce.
It's a matchup that you don't want to touch with running backs. It's another real tough matchup for Charkandrick West, the poor kid. Hey, welcome to the league. You got to play the Vikings run defense and then the Steelers run defense, who's, we're talking second and like 6th or 7th best in the NFL to start. Andy Reid said today that he still feels that West is a better fit for the offense. I don't think he's going to lose his job after the benching at the end of the week with the fumble this past weekend. So stay away from them. And, Macklin,
stay
just
away
keep
from
an
the
eye.
Kansas City offense.
Yeah, I mean,
on it.
What's Wilson? Watch him, I guess, if you need a bye week fill in. Could play a role, I guess, because there's not much else there if Macklin's out with his concussion.
Yeah, I'm
talking. You got bye weeks, a lot of them, so you got to help out the year guys too.
Just so far down the list. There's so many other people I would rather stick in there. Browns at Rams. All the Gary Barnage.
Yeah,
all the Gary Barnage. That's just.
He's almost becoming just regardless. All the Gary Barnage.
Listen, they're in cash games. You've probably heard of DFS. Do you Gronk or do you not Gronk? And pretty soon, I feel like we're gonna start saying like, do you Barnage or do you not Barnage?
Yeah.
Just crazy. Every week I don't buy into it, and every week I'm that much less in my pocket for it.
He is questionable. He's banged up a little bit, and the Rams' defense is only letting up about 5 points a game to tight ends. Just one touchdown this season. So the matchup isn't the best.
Yeah, but it's Gary Barnage. Matchup
no
proof.
kidding. No, honestly, I don't know if he's
a burner.
He's, as far as I know, I think he was banged up a little bit. I think he's questionable at this point. So I'm pretty sure he's playing, but just not the best matchup and a little bit banged up. But
in all seriousness, last week was not a good matchup.
I know,
against the Broncos.
I know, clearly it's a great defense.
2 touchdowns.
Yep.
I don't know. McCown came back to earth in this game, but still threw for 2 touchdowns. He's still thrown for 2 touchdowns in every game he started in. Rams are 3rd best against opposing quarterbacks this season, but I still like McCown. He seems to still be getting it done. I could see him as an excellent GPP option. Tough matchup, but he's been getting it done, and he's not the name.
He hasn't been getting it done. Didn't he just score 11 points?
I'm just saying.
Sorry, I wasn't
had
listening.
multiple touchdowns in every game he started this season.
Yeah.
But the matchup's a little bit tougher. Not that name. I could see him as a really good GPP option that's going to be really low owned.
Yeah.
Really low owned.
Yep.
Your boy Travis Benjamin, 13 or more fantasy points in PPR leagues in every game this season.
Yep. I hear you. Kid's a stud. You're welcome.
It's good. It's very good, especially for DFS.
You want a high five right now?
Huh?
You want a high five?
Yes.
Let's do it. We did this together on this podcast, whether you hated me for it at first or not.
I did hate you.
We can take credit for it.
Yeah. Todd Gurley, don't hate me for that one, because this one's going to work out good for you this week, I think. And I've been all over this guy. You know I love him.
got this guy number 2 ranked overall.
Yeah. Only $5,000 on DraftKings. It's absolutely crazy.
I'm not a DraftKings player, so what? Talk to me about what Adrian Peterson cost this week.
I'd have to look it up, but if I
give me who's the top?
9,600 is the top guy.
What the?
So he's.
Why would you not have Gurley in every lineup you've ever created?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Good reaction right there.
In the history of mankind.
Plays against the Browns, 5th worst against opposing running backs. They're favored by 5.5 points here. They're going to grind the clock out with him. He's all they have on offense. Spare me the Tavon Austin talk. He's all they have. They're going to grind it out with him. He's going to have a huge day.
5th against the run, or running backs, but number 1 in the league with yards against as well, with 789.
You mean allowing the most?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. What did I say?
Yeah.
Yards against, I thought?
Yeah. It just.
Well, I'm talking his matchup.
Right. It's a great matchup. It's
beautiful.
the Browns.
Yeah.
It's the Browns.
Wow. Every lineup ever created since the history of mankind started.
Absolutely.
Put him in it this weekend.
Done and done. Lock it up. Texans at Dolphins. God, the Texans' offense just runs through Arian Foster and DeAndre Hopkins and nobody else.
Yeah, so let's talk about everybody again about last weekend and how DeAndre Hopkins isn't going to get that much work now because Foster's back. 2 weeks in a row now. They've both gotten, one guy with 14 targets.
I didn't say
the other one over 25. It's like you said. No, you're right. You've realized it after 2 weeks now. You're right. They go through them and that's it. And Cecil Shorts is out already, deemed out this week. He actually got 6 targets, which is an amazing amount compared to everybody else.
He's been having a really nice season.
Quiet, nice season.
Like
PPR guy, yeah. But he's out this week, so it's probably going to be 27 targets for Hopkins.
I don't think we have to give them reasons on why to
play Hopkins.
Good
point.
Let me real quick, actually, though, for season-long leagues, is he your top receiver rest of the season? Or would you trade him for any other wide receiver?
No. So, yes.
I was going to say, I don't think I would trade him for anybody. Any other wide receiver.
No.
Obviously, other positions and blah, blah, blah. And however your team is, set up and if you need help at a position and all that jazz. But talking strictly wide receivers, he's my top guy.
Yep.
Speaking of top guys, Arian Foster back to a top 5 running back for you?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Done. Matt, I thought this was interesting. We just talked about Gurley and how much I like Gurley for sites like DraftKings this week. Lamar Miller. Let me hear your thoughts on Lamar Miller before I sway you. Or maybe I won't.
No, I like him. 19 touches last week. It was a guy that I was... Carries. Sorry, that's what I meant. Carries. It's a guy that I was actually putting offers all over the place out last week trying to get him.
Yeah.
Before this happened, because there was a lot of talk about them going back to the running game, and
I was worried about it. I wanted to see it 1 week first, then I saw it, and
well, now it's too late. Now you can't go get him for as cheap as you may have been able to last week. That's why last week I was targeting him. So, yeah, for me, I like him. Absolutely.
Listen to this.
Give him 19 carries, and you've probably got some good numbers for that.
I got some good numbers for it. That's why I dug a little bit.
I know where you were going.
All right, so Lamar Miller in his career, when he has at least 19 carries, it's only happened 3 other times.
Yep.
So small sample size. We're talking 4 games total. But in PPR leagues, when he's gotten at least 19 carries, he's averaging 19.8 fantasy points a game. We're talking big games too. I mean, we're talking a 19 for 178 in a touchdown game, a 19 for 92 in a touchdown game with 5 receptions for 58 yards, and a 22 for 72 game. So maybe that one's the little outlier. But those other 2, very good games for him. Like I said, 19.8 fantasy points when getting 19 or more carries. This week, their team is favored. He's at home. Houston's 11th worst against opposing running backs, and he's $4,600 in DraftKings.
All those numbers are awesome, but I bet if you looked up player B, C, D, and E with at least 19 carries in a game, I bet the numbers are pretty good too.
I don't know. How did Adrian Peterson look last week with 26?
First time in his career he's had less than 100 yards, you said.
I'm just saying, to your point, yes, 19 carries is a lot.
Yeah.
What I guess I'm saying is in this game...
look at Melvin Gordon.
Yeah. 19 carries, I think he gets 19 carries in this game. Everything's in his favor. They're going to be winning. They're playing at home. Mm-hmm. It's not a good...
I think it sounds like a great call.
Defense. Yep. I think it's coming. Rashard Matthews, 4 or more receptions in all but 1 game this season. Coming off the bye, new head coach. He's played in at least 90% of their offensive snaps last week. Second highest on the team besides Jarvis Landry.
Yeah. That's
he's
huge.
Number 2.
That's huge. Yeah. So a couple
head
weeks
coach
ago, I was
coming
down on him because I thought Parker would ascend.
Yeah.
New head coach comes in, and
nope.
it's Matthews.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty telling.
Yeah. Very telling. In fact, let me bring up the Miami snap counts here real quick, and I'll tell you what Parker did. Let's see here.
One thing about Parker is I did read some quotes about how they are hoping, moving along. Maybe he's not 100% healthy yet.
Devontae Parker just 6 snaps last week.
Yeah.
Rashard Matthews had 60.
Yeah, out of 60, 4?
Out of 67.
67, yeah.
Jets at Patriots. The Patriots, after getting gashed in weeks 1 and 2, have really buttoned up that run defense. They're now 6th best against running backs, despite giving up those big weeks, week 1 and 2. I like what Chris Ivory's been doing, but, they're on the road. They're huge dogs in this game. I don't think he keeps it going.
I don't either, not this week.
Mm-mm. A guy that I think could keep it going, Brandon Marshall, 6 or more receptions in every game this season. He also has 100 yards receiving or a touchdown in every game. I think he's easily top 10 for me, and maybe even like top 7-ish. He's getting there. It's weird to say that about a Jets receiver, but he's getting there.
Well, it's not weird. I mean, look at what Decker's been doing, too. Both of them, when Decker's healthy, he's been great as well. In general, in reference especially to where you drafted him, it's a better offense than most people thought, with a good defense, too. That they're a pretty good team.
Decker, his receiving yardage is really unspectacular, but a receiving touchdown in every game he's played in the season.
Yep.
That's good. I mean, you probably
and Marshall has just been a beast.
Yeah.
He hasn't even had a breakout game yet. He's just been so consistent. And I think he continues to be, because basically...
He's like consistent 6 for 100 a touchdown.
99 out of 100 times when Fitzpatrick drops back, the first read is Brandon Marshall. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
How often it is.
I don't think there's anything really to say here about the Patriots. You're starting all of them, and I'm not worried about the Revis narrative.
No.
I mean, Dion Lewis, he still had more snaps than Blunt. Blunt obviously got more work last week. Maybe we see more Blunt moving forward, but I don't know.
Yeah, Lewis was still limited in practice today. So we'll see. ESPN Boston, I'm reading on Roto World earlier today, they basically think a lot of it had to do with the injury, and that's still what he was sitting out for today. So he's hurting. Yeah. He's hurting.
Yeah. Raiders at Chargers. All right, so Eddie Lacy couldn't get...
Hey, LaFell.
Yeah.
You think he's going to play this week? Signs point to that he may. The kid was the top 26 receiver in standard scoring last year.
I like LaFell.
Yeah.
If you can go out and get him, go out and get him.
All right. We got to bring this stuff up. That's what we're here for.
Raiders at Chargers. Eddie Lacy couldn't get it done last week against the Chargers, but may I present you with Latavius Murray?
Yeah, and it's not like Eddie Lacy didn't get it done, but the Packers rushing game did. Right. James Starks
did. Don't say the Packers like James Starks isn't somebody.
Well, yeah. I'm just saying, don't say Eddie Lacy like they stopped Eddie Lacy last week. They certainly didn't.
I think
James Starks stopped Eddie Lacy.
I think a big game is coming for Latavius Murray here, coming off the bye. It just seems right.
Yeah, they've already talked about making sure they get this right. Del Rio, they asked him about the quote unquote benching the last 2 games late, and he said that Latavius has been one of the guys that have been giving a lot to this team. He's been playing banged up. They really respect him. They've talked about getting the running game right. He talked about accountability. It starts with him. I think that's kind of a big focus this week. I agree. This could be a really nice game for him.
Chargers top 10 against both the quarterbacks and wide receivers this year in fantasy points. So Derek Carr and Amari Cooper, I'm not really on this week.
No, I think you're right. This is going to be a heavy run game offense for them. They're really going to try to get back to that. But the situation is going to be are they going to be able to stop Phillip Rivers and then continue to run the football?
Listen to this, because we mentioned stop Phillip Rivers. Oakland is top 10 against every position in fantasy points except for quarterback and tight end. Yep. Quarterback, they were like 16th, and tight end, we all know the Raiders are terrible against. They're dead last.
Yeah, all of the Antonio Gates.
All of it. All of it. We talked about Barnage earlier. And
this is like the most exciting matchup of the whole entire fantasy football season. right?
It's
Pretty much, unless Gronk was playing them for the tight end position.
I was going to ask you. I mean, in our home league, I have Gates and Gronk. Should I bench Gronk for Gates this week?
Wow.
I'm just saying. I mean, think about that. That's not crazy.
No.
Aside from Owen Daniels getting shut out because it's Owen Daniels, every tight end that has faced the Raiders this season has finished as the tight end number 2 or better. Every one of them. And we're talking about Gary Barnidge, Crockett Gilmore, Tyler Eifert, and I'm forgetting who the fourth one was. But,
yeah.
I mean...
And you get a tough situation with Gronk this week against the Jets.
I mean, listen, I'm going Gronk because it's Gronk.
It's Gronk.
You don't
matchup proof.
You don't bench Gronk. I'm just saying that's a real
situation for you
that could happen.
Yeah,
like,
and
then it's very tough.
Yep.
Much tougher than you'd think.
Yeah, absolutely. Trade one quickly.
Trying to. Cowboys at Giants. It's sounding more and more like we have a new starting running back in the Lone Star State.
It is, and boy, am I excited for it. I'll tell you what. We've talked about him before. I can harken back to a podcast years and years ago, and I've talked about it before, that I just love his talent. I just can't believe it hasn't stuck anywhere yet, and I think it had a lot more to do with the fact that he was behind a future Hall of Famer. So we'll see. He's fine. The running back coach said we're going to take the reins off him and let him go. We don't really know what it's going to be.
Assuming they come out and they've all but said he's the starter. Assuming we know he's the starter, where would you rank him against the Giants, who are 9th worst against opposing running backs? Top 20?
Yeah. But the thing is, too, what does starter mean in Dallas? They still they split it around.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
So, still top 20, though? Top 15?
Top 20. Top 20 for me.
Yeah, I
guess I'd have to do them. I don't do rankings anymore, but if I did...
I was going to say, I haven't done my rankings yet.
It'd be interesting to see.
The bye weeks will obviously throw it a little out of whack, but... I mean, if I had to guess, he's probably going to be in that 15 to 17 range.
I probably think so. I think he would be too for me.
I don't know.
I'm excited. If I have him on my roster, I'm pumped. This is what I've been holding him for. If he's out there, go get him quickly as soon as you hear this.
Dez could be back soon, but it's not looking like this week.
No.
Just throwing that out there. The wheels really came off last week for Eli Manning and Odell and company after that first drive. I think they're going to get back on track this week. Cowboys secondary not looking very good. Cowboys have now allowed multiple passing touchdowns in 3 straight games, so I think they get back on track here.
We'll see how healthy Beckham is. It's something to keep an eye on.
Cowboys also 30th versus opposing running backs on the season. Jennings actually tied his season high in carries last week.
With 13. Yeah, and he fumbled.
He's a starting running back in the NFL. His season high is 13.
There's no... Yeah. Here's the situation where you said, Christian Michael's the starter. Yeah, but this is even
different
uglier.
Situation.
This is even uglier.
I was going to say, like Christian Michael a lot more than...
Oh, God, yeah.
Rashad
Yeah.
Jennings.
But it's a situation where it's our running back by committee. My favorite thing.
Yeah. Sunday night, Eagles at Panthers. DeMarco Murray is back, Matt. 20 carries in back-to-back games, rushing touchdown in each of those games, 10 receptions. He's back to being a running back 1 for me.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
He is back. Someone, I don't even know if we can say he was ever even really there, Jordan Matthews, severely underperforming despite another double-digit target week. Under 60 receiving yards in 4 straight now. For me, I don't own Jordan Matthews in any league, but if I did... He's on my bench until I see him blow up. And I'm okay with that.
And
if he blows up one week and he's on my bench, I'm okay with that.
But I'm not dropping him. Too many targets.
Yeah, not dropping him, but not putting him in my starting lineup either. Jonathan Stewart finally...
Bradford's a bum.
I don't know if he's a bum. He just isn't going... I mean,
he's a bum.
He's been... All right.
I just think he's a bum.
Jonathan Stewart finally reached pay dirt last week. Oddly enough, it was against a tough Seahawks defense.
Twice,
I know.
What the?
This week he gets an equally tough Eagles team that's yet to allow a rushing touchdown to a running back all season.
Yeah, I think he was still 20 carries for 70-something yards, still under 4 yards a carry. not a match. I mean, but we would have said this last week too. So who the hell do we think we are?
Well, listen, I do want to say this. If I'm attacking the Eagles, it's at the wide receiver position. They've allowed the 6th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. I think if the Panthers want to be in this game, it's going to be a big Ted Ginn game.
Yeah,
I like him for GPPs.
Ginn had a rough week last week, but actually on one of Cam's interceptions, it was a split second away from a 65-yard touchdown. He had completely beat his guy.
But I guess
Newton got hit as the throw was happening. So we could have been talking about, hey, Ted Ginn, is he somebody really? That close.
I mean, I guess
the matchup. Like
what I want to point out here is Vegas has the Panthers as scoring 24, basically 25 points. They're projecting them to win. It's going to be an up-tempo game against the Eagles. So if you're going to score 24, 25 points, and you're playing against an Eagles team that we just mentioned hasn't allowed a rushing touchdown all year to a running back, how are you going to score those points? Who's going to score those points for you? Those are 3 touchdowns. Someone has to score those touchdowns. Like I said, I think Ted Ginn gets 1, maybe 2. They've been pretty good against the tight end, too. So it's not like I'm thinking Greg Olson's going to blow up for a big game.
Yeah. Against the tight ends, they're number 2 in the NFL, actually. So
Second best.
No.
They've been allowing... What? Maybe I missed that then. So you're saying Greg Olson's going to have a big game?
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm looking at this incorrectly.
Jesus Christ, Matt.
It's getting late.
Get him off the pod.
Yeah. Never mind.
Past his bedtime.
Too many targets going that way regardless.
The Eagles, second best against opposing tight ends.
Yes. Okay, yes.
Second least amount of fantasy points.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. So you're not going to throw it to your tight end.
Right.
If you're going to put up 24 fantasy points and you can't run the ball in the end zone and you can't go to your tight ends,
yep,
it has to go to the receivers.
Yeah, I mean, let's not. Olsen's got a chance. The guy's the number 1 option in the offense.
Sure, everybody has a chance.
Of course,
but the Eagles have allowed 1 touchdown to a tight end this year.
Yep. I like Ginn. Here's that's a nice little stack.
Yeah.
Newton, Ginn.
Monday night, Ravens at Cardinals. All the Carson Palmer and maybe John Brown. Maybe even Larry Fitzgerald.
Maybe even Michael Floyd. I mean,
I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid.
No, I know, but I love Palmer this week.
Ravens are last against opposing quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Next to last against wide receivers.
My point this might be a huge game for them.
It might be a triple stack situation. I might do me some Palmer, Brown, and Fitzgerald all in a lineup and just watch them run nuts. Just go nuts.
Yeah. Sure you don't want a little Gresham?
No. No. With the high spread and being at home, CJ2K maybe gets into the mix too. I still can't believe this. He's your number 12 overall fantasy running back right now. That makes me sick.
Unbelievable. And interestingly enough, I mean, the snap counts between these 3 running backs in Arizona. Yeah. I wish you had
Chris
them.
Johnson's still.
Do you have them there?
I can bring them up.
Look them up because you'd think by now we're what, 2 games into the Ellington season.
Do you want just last week's or?
No, bring up this last week because we know Ellington's only 2 weeks in. But you'd think after coming off injury, blowing off a big play last week as well, so looking pretty good to me. He's healthy, right? Do you have him? Why did the snap count do this week? What's going on?
Chris Johnson 39, David Johnson 23, Andre Ellington 9.
What? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Why isn't Ellington getting more involved? What's happening here? I fully expected this week that it was basically David Johnson didn't touch the field, and it was Ellington and Chris Johnson. So interesting to me. Is Ellington just completely droppable?
No.
What if it happens again this week? It's weird. He's healthy.
22 snaps the last 2 weeks for Ellington.
It's gone down. It's weird.
It's real bad. Flip side of all this, the Cardinals have been slightly worse than average against wide receivers. So I think, if this is going to be the blowout that Vegas is projecting, Steve Smith has to have a big day for the Ravens to be in it. 7 for 137 and a touchdown when he came back last week from his injury. Cardinals very good against the run, so I'm completely off Justin Forsett. Again, I think if the Ravens want to be in it, we could see 12, 15 targets going to Steve Smith.
Yeah. Crockett Gilmore was sharing time. I mean, that's all they got.
I love ending the podcast on Crockett Gilmore talk.
That's all they got, right?
They have a whole bunch of nothing. It's real bad out there in Baltimore. They just have no receivers. It's Steve Smith and then Steve Smith, and then really far behind him, Marlon Brown and Kamar Aiken.
Yep.
All right, Matt. Well, that does it.
It's an exciting ending, and that's basically what the offense in Baltimore is.
We gotta find a better way to the Ed podcast than talking about Marlon
Baltimore.
Brown and Kamar Aiken.
No kidding, huh?
Crockett Gilmore. You got anything else you want to leave him with before we go?
No, I think we're good.
All right, guys. Well, make sure to keep hitting us up on Twitter at Marcus Katkin, at Matt Dougal. Make sure to keep checking out my cash game write-ups and my GPP videos. I didn't get those up last week, but I will this week. So make sure you check those out, blindsidefootball.com, and we will see you guys next week.